Okay, so we're going to draw a cold front. So a cold front is where we have cold air replacing warm air. So to start off, let's talk about the cold air. The cold air is going to be moving from west to east, like so. And as it moves forward, it's going to try to stay close to the ground because it's cold air and cold air wants to sink. As it goes across the ground, the air is going to be dragged underneath itself right here by friction. So this is going to be a continental polar air mass. Now, the cold air is going to be replacing a warm air bubble, a warm air mass. So over here, we're going to have a continental tropic. Now, when we draw a map symbol representing a cold front, we're interested in drawing it where the change from warm air to cold air is on the ground. We're not interested what's happening up in the high and the altitude in the atmosphere. We're only interested in where it's touching the ground. So I'm going to draw a line on the ground, and for a cold front, I'm going to draw triangles representing cold air, and those triangles are going to be pointed in the direction of the air masses. So in the United States, normal prevailing westerlies are pushing the air masses from west to east, and so both of these air masses are going to be moving to the east, which means that the cold front, this line right here, is going to be slowly shifting from west to east. Eventually, locations over here are going to shift from warm air to cold air, and areas over here will continue to experience cold air until this is replaced again by a different air mass. Okay, now we're going to draw a warm front. A warm front is where you have warm air replacing cold air. So we're going to start off by drawing the cold air mass. Cold air mass is going to be over on the right, and it's going to kind of drag out. Now the cold air mass is moving west to east, again following typical storm tracks in the United States. It's going to be a polar air mass, indicating that it's cold. And again, because it's close to the ground, because cold air is trying to sink close to the ground, it's going to drag out behind it, creating kind of this ramp going on here. Now the warm air mass is going to be over here on the right. And the warm air mass is going to be following up, again moving west to east because of the prevailing winds. And this is going to be a continental tropic. Now the warm air mass is willing to rise above cold air because warm air is less dense than cold air. So the warm air is actually going to be moving up over the cold air, creating this overlap. Now when we draw a warm front, again we're interested in where the change between cold air and warm air is on the ground. So we're not interested in what's going on up here, we're interested in what's going on here. So when I draw the warm front is going to be where the change happens on the ground, and I'm going to draw half circles to indicate a warm front. Again, the air masses are moving from west to east, and so the symbols have to be pointed to the east, indicating that this shift between cold air and warm air is moving from west to east. So we have cold air over here and warm air over here on the map, and the shift is happening like so, as indicated by the half circles. Okay, based on the behavior of air and its temperatures, you should be able to figure out what kind of front it is based on the shape. So I've drawn two fronts here. There's a cold front and a warm front. The question is, which one is which? I have front 1 and front 2. Which one is the cold front and which one is the warm front? Okay, so let's figure it out. So warm air rises over cold air. So we're typically going to find on this ramp, the warm air is going to be above the cold air. And so this right here is where warm air is, and this is going to be where cold air is. So this is going to be our tropical air, and this is going to be our polar air. Now, what about this one? In this particular case, the air is being dragged back underneath due to friction. So this air is trying to stay very close to the ground, trying to go underneath the warm air. So this is also going to be polar air. Now all of these air masses are moving from west to east. And so if I wanted to draw the two symbols for these fronts, is I have to draw them where they touch the ground. So the warm front is going to be where the warm air, the tropical warm air is replacing the cold polar air. So that's going to be right here. And I'm going to draw a line. And then I would draw the half circles in order to indicate the warm front. So this is where warm air is replacing cold air. I would draw the cold front where the cold air and the warm air touch the ground. And that would be right here. And here I would draw triangles, indicating that cold air is replacing warm air. Now these are going to be moving across the country from west to east based on the prevailing winds, and different locations will experience different weather over as those air masses pass over them. So if I talk about this location right here, location A, and I put that on the map, location A right now, according to this diagram, is experiencing cold air. But over time, what's going to happen is these air masses are going to move over. They're going to continue moving from west to east, and you'll change from colder air to warmer air as this air mass here moves over it. And then eventually it'll go back to being cold air as this air mass eventually moves over it.